Hello, everyone. Hope you're having a good time attending the insightful and engaging sessions we have planned for you today. It is now time for a special case study presentation on the topic Supercharge Your Data Strategy by Celine Cotonnec, Chief Data and Innovation Officer at Bank of Singapore. Celine oversees the data strategy of the bank, data architecture, governance, data management, data literacy, and implementation of analytics use cases in cooperation with the OCBC Group Customer Analytics Department and AI Lab. Her mission is to foster a culture of innovation while running the internal incubator Springbrook. More than ever, the ability to manage torrents of data is critical to a company's success. But even with the emergence of data management functions and chief data officers, most companies remain behind the curve. Data breaches are common, rogue data sets propagate in silos, and companies' data technology often isn't up to the demands to put on it. As our corporate data stores have grown both in size and subject area diversity, it has become clear that a strategy to address data is necessary. Yet some still struggle with the idea that corporate data needs a comprehensive strategy. Organizations need to create data strategies that match today's realities. And how can organizations implement these? In this engaging case study presentation, Celine will explain the three pillars of data governance, data architecture, and data culture for anyone looking at implementing an effective data strategy. She will also share some innovative use cases that the Bank of Singapore is implementing. And before I pass on the frame to Celine, I would request our audience to keep sharing your questions and reflections in the chat box. And now, without further ado, let me hand over the frame to Celine. Over to you, Celine.
Thank you very much, Yasmin, and thanks for welcoming me today in this ETHR Worldwide Conference. So my name is Celine Cotonnec. I'm the Chief Data and Innovation Officer for Bank of Singapore. I've been Chief Data Officer for most of my career, working first in automotive industry and in insurance industry before joining the private banking sector. And I will share some of the insight that I have developed over the years by doing a chief data officer role, and what is for me, the pillar that needs to be implemented in any type of organization at the end of the day. So without further ado, please let me share my screen as well as my slides. So the topic of today's presentation is how do you supercharge your data strategy? I would say that for any good data strategy, we have three main pillars that we need to actually work on. The first one being really the platform architecture and what is the data stack that is implemented within your organization. You will be looking at a topic such as visualization or data virtualization, but also all of the tech stack that is linked to, how do I better govern my data, my access to the data, as well as where do I have a data catalog or lineage to be able to understand where this data is coming from, and is it is this coming from the golden source that need to be used for this type of data set. So platform architecture is one of the big parts of a good data strategies. Need to be working along between business and your IT architecture department, of course. But any type of platform needs to support a business strategy. So a data strategy is not independent from your business strategy. First, you have a business strategy, and then your data strategy is how do I support my business through the data that I'm collecting or not yet, right? It can be part of your data strategy as well to identify the data that you're not collecting enough or you're not collecting today in order to be able to support future business needs. So the overall platform discussion is, of course, a big one, but it's not the only one, right? Like there are many organizations that still do think that once the platform is implemented, then the job is done. We tend to say that in any transformation activity, should it be data or digital, for example, actually only 20% of the successful transformation of the organization is linked to the platform and tech stack that is selected. 30% of the success of any type of project is actually linked to the process and the governance, right, that is set up to actually enable all of your data use case throughout your organization. But the most important factor in any successful data transformation is actually the people. Those are the 50 remaining percent of the success factor for your data strategy to be effectively implemented throughout your organization. And when I talk about the people. I talk about the level of data literacy of the organization. So how much do people within the organization are able to actually leverage on data and insight, whether they are generated on a batch mode or on a real-time mode. How many % of the people within the organization do understand, what data can bring to their daily activity, and are able also to start leveraging on historical data to be able to predict the impact that it will have on their future activity. And part of this data culture pillar, which is for me one of the most important one, is also what type of new jobs will be created in the future within your organization to be able to support your data-driven organization use cases. So here we're talking about hiring of data scientists, data engineer, people with data privacy background, or a good data management and governance background. So those are all the new type of profiles that your organization might not have today, but that will need to be hired in the coming years if you intend to become a data-driven organization. So what is actually the impact on the population, whether it's on the data team itself or on the wider organization? And how do I actually upskill all of my business users so they're able to self-serve and interpret insight by themselves to take the right type of decision based on the output that any type of analytical tool or platform will actually give them. So again, I will not emphasize enough the fact that data culture, that this third pillar is actually one of the most important one for any successful transformation. And then after you have all the analytical use cases, right? Analytical use cases can go from simple dashboard automation to some more complex use cases, such as the deployment and development of machine learning model within your organization that are able to, for example, predict a customer churn or a risk, identify an anomaly within your transaction that could potentially, identify a fraudulent behavior from your customer or your own internal staff. So those are what actually, are forming the basic ground and foundation for any data strategy. I will be focusing a bit in the future of my presentation on the use cases because implementing a good data strategy takes time. It requires as well investment, of course, huge ICT investment, but also investment in people, investment in skill sets, development of new policy, procedure, and then how do I transform my whole organization from working on a reactive mode to a more predictive mode that can be supported by AI and propensity model, for example. So I would say that AI that we've been talking and hearing a lot for the past 10 years now is not something new, actually. AI has been developed already back in the 1950s. It was actually the way for the research world to talk about how machine mimicking the human behavior when it comes to making decision and being able to perceive what the future will be, and then in the 1980s move toward what we call machine learning, using historical data in order to be able to predict what's going to happen in the future, encompassing all those several categories of reinforcement learning, supervised learning, unsupervised learning model. And then further with time and with the ability to compute more quicker and to develop more complex type of algorithm, the emergence of deep learning activity that are mainly used for high latency and numerous amount of data processing that needs to be done at the same time to take a decision. So one of the examples for deep learning would be, for example, an algorithm that will be used for a self-driving car. Those one will be categorized in the deep learning side of use cases, and all of those do require a lot of rapid processing to be able to take a decision on a real-time basis. So I think this slide is just to say that AI has nothing new. The question is, how do we actually embed AI-driven decision within our organization? And and what is the real value that data can bring within our organization. So if we take it down to the financial industry, data has nothing new, right? Financial industry have been using data for years in order to be able to value our pricing, in order to be able to evaluate the performance of a portfolio, in order to be able to define what would be the level of credit risk from a customer, or to be able to even calculate loan or exposure. So it's mainly used in three ways, right? When we're talking about data within the financial industry, how can I use my data to ensure that my business is efficient, that I have operational efficiency? It is linked to a lot of use case on report and basic automation. But what are the value tasks that my staff and employee are doing on a daily basis that is quite repetitive and that could be automated through a robot or a script, and then later on through an AI that could actually improve the decision making. The other big aspect on leveraging AI more and more is really linked to what has been coming from the digital marketing side, or even the advertisement industry, which is how do I personalize offer and services to my customer, so I can ensure that my customer receive the right investment opportunity at the right time of his investment journey, getting personalized offer according to past behavior or according to digitally captured data that would indicate us what are the preference or what is the segmentation that this customer is belonging to. So how do I actually cluster my customers to be able to provide them with the best customized and personalized service? And then another growing trend when it comes to the usage of data within the industry, but also beyond, is how do I leverage this data in an ethical manner? We have seen all of the scandal that has been going on. We have seen also the new regulation on cookies that is currently being implemented globally in order to be able to protect customer and personal data more and more. So how do we actually embed all of those ethical use of data within our processes and within our industry to ensure that there is no bias that is actually reported toward the model that we deploy. So this is another high level of scrutiny area that all of the organization are actually spending time investing into making AI not only good for business, but also good for people. So, again, coming back to my earlier comment, data has nothing new, right? Financial services, banking, insurance sector, or any other financial activity have been working with data forever already. But what is the difference with what is happening today? The difference mainly is the type of data that are generated, right? We used to always work with historical, structured, aggregated data, but now with the deployment of 5G, the availability of sensor everywhere, namely Internet of Things, and as well as the development of all the digital platform and digital assisted behavior of purchasing, ordering, or trading. How can we leverage on all of those unstructured data to be able to increase the performance of our model and our recommendation? And this has also tremendously changed over the past few years with an increased relevance on customer centricity and on the offer that our financial services industry is actually selling out to their customer. So I believe it's, there is no tremendous revolution about what has always been happening in the financial services. But now the question is, how do we use the right skill set and the right tech stack to be able to draw insight from more and more data that are currently collected from various sources? And how do we interpret those data in a more efficient manner, knowing that, the amount of data will keep growing, and And so, which means that the type of technology that we'll be using and leveraging on for data processing and insight generation will be also evolving. And how do we ensure that we keep all of our teams, whether they are a financial analyst, a risk analyst, a product analyst, up to date with the latest technology, programming knowledge, as well as platform, to be able to efficiently actually ensure the role. One of the other things, right? Because in terms of machine learning and what is the difference with the current models that are being used when we are, for example, evaluating some risk, right? So credit risk coming from a customer. Whether in the past we used to have a limited number of data points that we could rely on in order to be able to evaluate the risk of a customer. As mentioned by my earlier slide, the nature of the data that is currently generated and collected is actually changing. Different type of data, but also the amount of data is just too difficult to interpret by a human mind. So this is why we today need the support of machine to be able to generate insight out of this multitude amount of data that we are collecting and making sense of those insights. So this is where the algorithmic modeling culture was born in the 1980s, when the number of data, the amount of data that needed to be analyzed and cleaned and interpreted did grow, giving birth to new type of models that are actually self-learning model. And I think this is one of the big difference with the previous GLM type of model that have always been used by our risk people or actuary in order to be able to define pricing or evaluate the risk of any product or customer. So this is one of the other trends that is also changing currently between a data scientist and then a risk modeler or an actuary for the insurance world. Then how are we ensuring that our analysts that have always been working with data are able to upskill themselves and use the right type of platform to be able to leverage on machine learning capability to better do their job and better predict the future. There are a few types of models. So I've just been talking about a machine learning model. One of the other type of model that is usually quite well used in financial services, but other industry as well, is everything that is linked to NLP, or a natural language processing. NLP is the technique that is used to be able to extract information from unstructured document. Should it be a PDF or a text, free text, or even an image for that matter, on computer vision side, to be able to extract the information in a more structured manner so you can actually interpret them. Many use cases that are linked to document processing and full end-to-end automation, or any manual or human based process can be actually leveraging NLP technology to reach a end-to-end level of automation. So NLP is one of the big technique that is currently used in a lot of industry. And if I look at, taking the example of the insurance industry, for example, how do we leverage today on connected vehicle data in order to price the insurance better? In the traditional way of pricing an insurance product, we look at, of course, the past claim history of a customer, but also what are the socio-demographic data of that customer, as well as the history of the vehicle data, what type of brand, what was the year of production, when was it sold, how much has it been used in terms of kilometers, and then looking at various other past historical data. Now, with the availability of sensor in cars, we are able to collect much more information on the driving behavior of the customer. We are able to know if his way of driving is a safe one, which means is it a driver that is often harsh braking? Is it a driver that is over speeding on roads? Is it a driver that is having a too harsh cornering when he's turning on the left or right side of the road. So all of those data can now be collected by the sensor of the car. And we are able to customize the pricing of an insurance, not only based on the historical information that we have on the customer and the car, but also on the actual current real-time behavioral information of the driver behavior quality. So with the emergence of telematic system within all the car, we are now able to do a better risk-based pricing, and also to prevent accident from ensuring that we are pricing properly the people that have dangerous, risky behavior on the road, and being able to reward those that have a safe way of driving. Another type of use cases that I could think of when we look at credit risk monitoring, and then how in the past we only used to leverage on macro metrics to be able to define a country credit risk rating, where now we leveraging on all the social media information that can be collected on the internet. So we're talking about all of the social media and alternative data source that can be found through the digitalization of pretty much every business industry. How am I able leveraging on topic modeling, as well as sentiment analysis, being able to have more accurate information on the changing situation of a country and be able to adapt my credit risk scoring according to real-time social media-based information rather than only historical macroeconomic metric and data set. This is one of the, I would say, more modern way of looking at how do I actually better manage my risk on real time. Another very common use case, especially in the financial services, but also in other industry, is anything that can be linked to anomaly detection. Anomaly detection here means fraud. So as part of one of the big activities that any financial service provider needs to actually render is to ensure that any anomaly in transaction or customer behavior is also automatically detected in order to be investigated. And this is where using clustering technique based on historical past data transaction can enable us to identify outliers, and those outliers should be actually the type of transaction that could be investigated by our compliance or monitoring team. It would help them to actually focus on the real use cases that have actually issues rather than randomly sampling any type of transaction for monitoring and investigation. So how do we better support our fraud and risk monitoring through leveraging on data science and clustering technique? So those have been all the use cases that are really linked to operational efficiency. But I'd like to spend a bit of time on all the use cases that are linked to leveraging artificial intelligence to improve customer experience and customer centricity. Those use cases come mainly from digital marketing platform, all of the pure player that you might meet on your daily basis, all those digital platform where you have personalized content, where you have retention capability of the customer, which means that if you have early risk of signing off one of their services, then those platforms will actually send you adapted pricing or any type of campaign in order to ensure that you actually do remain engaged on their platform. And how do I, from all the data that are collected today from my customer, ensure that I'm able to craft campaign that can talk to my customer according to their own behavior segment, and then traditional whole customer journey. You have various other use cases, such as how do I prioritize my VIP customer? How do I recognize my VIP customer, prioritize the service, and then build dedicated service team to be able to ensure that my VIP, who are actually bringing me 80% of my revenue, do remain within my books, right? So this is all of the type of activity where AI can support in ensuring that we have a better personalized service for the customer and ensure retention, avoiding churn, and ensuring that we are also prioritizing and focusing our effort on our main customer segment. So without further ado, I think this was a quick introduction on what are the best practice to be able to build a proper data strategy. My first advice would be to first focus on what is the use case that your organization is, what is the biggest problem that your organization is trying to solve, and according to the various use cases that have been presented earlier, which one should I actually start with that could bring the most benefit to my organization, so I can then leverage on those to showcase to the business that using the data in a proper manner have actually some benefit, and can also give you some momentum in order to request for more investment on proper data platform, proper data skills, as well as the implementation of a proper governance, ensuring that your data are of the right quality to be able to be leveraged on, but also that you have all the mechanism to protect your customer data and comply with all of the various global data privacy regulation, while ensuring that you are benefiting the business. So with that, I will let the audience ask if you have any question. Please feel free to put them on the chat, and I will be able to answer any of those.
Great, thank you so much, Celine. It was such incredible insights. It was great to learn about the critical pillars of data strategy and how organizations can use these to craft the right data strategy for themselves. And very insightful to learn about some use cases and how Bank of Singapore is using these pillars to leverage data for making more informed decisions, hence creating a better experience for its customers and also building a better future for its business. So thank you so much once again, Celine. It was a great session.
Thank you, Yasmin.
Thank you so much. And everyone, thank you for joining us. There's an exciting lineup of sessions for you today, so stay tuned. Do keep sharing your thoughts and learnings from today's session on social media by using our hashtag #ETPhoenixAPAC. We will see you for the next session, a case study presentation on driving innovation in a hybrid workplace by Dr. Tuan Anh Pham, Group CIO for Becomex. See you all there, and thank you once again.